Join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Who could believe it's already November?
I know, it's tough to believe.
It is. Yeah, it was just 4th of July. So I guess I have to welcome you to the November meeting. I hope everyone had a nice Halloween. Saw a lot of good costumes last night. I bet Parrott Street took it in stride. Review of the minutes. Monthly Town Board meeting of October 4th, 2018. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Abstain, I was absent for that meeting.
I wasn't going to bring that up, Bob. Weekly Town Board meeting of October 17th, 2018.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Committee reports. Conservation Board.
Okay, the Conservation Board met on October 9th. Some of the issues, repeat issues, were the Twin Bridge Road. This involves down towards, across from Graymore, regards to a repair to a culvert and piping and so forth in that area. This was a repeat issue. In addition to stabilizing the south end, the Wetlands Board committed, Conservation provided a conditional wetlands permit that's also being reviewed by the DEC. Another property, 125 Old Albany Post Road. This property's come up in the past. This was basically a property that was a non-conforming because it was too close to actually the stream. Just as a quick reminder, any properties or anything within the 100-foot buffer has to be regulated by the Conservation Board. This applicant worked very well with Conservation. It was a good example of working with someone who had issues, obviously wanted to be able to enjoy their property some as well, and we were able to meet with approval and so forth, and that was closed out. The other property on the agenda was 3 Ethan Drive up in Continental Village. This is up on the corner property. This issue has been going back and forth. It was to replace a new single-family residence in replace of a demolished residence. This property actually physically sits very close to the Cortland border, so there is actually a stream within the property as well, and therefore we asked of the applicant to reach out to Cortland and be able to resolve some issues regarding that. So those issues are still standing. We are still continuing to work with the aqueduct issues. The wetlands inspector is ensuring that all of the permits and so forth are being prepared, but they also have to provide us, of course, with a constructive activity regarding any kind of work that's going to be taking place there. We need updates as well. If you remember in the past, I spoke about this to ensure that anything that happens on any of these areas the public is advised ahead of time, because there will be road closures and changes and activities and so forth, and it's very important that we get ahead of this and make sure that everybody's aware of what's going to happen, because it'll be going on for a while. The Stormwater Committee met on October 10th. A few of the things we talked about: training, continually training for Highway Department. We are continuing to mark all of the stormwater drains in the MS4 area. The MS4 area quickly exists within the Continental Village and a section of Route 9. We also discussed potentials of lake cleanups and so forth. Some of those issues have come up in the past. While obviously some groups are looking at actual work in the lake, clearly some of the activities that need to be taken are outside of it to go to where the source of the problem is. We hope to do some water tests in the future to be able to determine, based on what kind of water flow comes into our town, like let's say over in Continental Village, it would come in through Putnam Valley, and then also to actually be able to test just prior to the lake to see what kind of contaminants are actually entering the lake itself. And then obviously there have been a discussion in regards to possibly forming some sort of a septic district, which would require septics to be cleaned out every 3 years minimum. There are communities that actually require that. So those kinds of discussions were started already with some of the people in the town in the meeting recently. So those hopefully continue, because every lake in this area is being affected by it. And you hear it, there's, obviously this political season that has come up a number of times as well, because it is a big issue. And we really need to get our handle on this. And the next meeting is on November 13th.
Thank you, Mike. Recreation.
I attended a portion of the Rec Commission meeting. Unfortunately, I had to leave a little early, but while I was there, Claudio reported that the Looking Swell program at the Depot Theater has been completed, and the program raised approximately $200,000, which was put into several improvements at the theater, but it is currently complete. The commission discussed the gymnasium floor, which we can address later. We have an add-on to the agenda, or if you want to talk about it now.
Might as well just talk about it.
So the existing gym floor, if you've been there lately, it's got like speed bumps in it. We had a floor company come in and look at it. It's basically lived its life, so they feel that it should be removed. Amber was only able to get one company to come in and give them any kind of estimates or pricing. We have 3 different options. One is to repair what's there, which is not recommended because, again, it's 50 years old. That's $7,900. To remove the existing floor completely and to replace with a glue-down rubber sheet product, which you'll see in the specs, is estimated at $60,000. The only gray area is if they pull it up and the slab is damaged underneath. It would not include this, repairing the slab, not replacing, God forbid. But then the other option was to do it with a wood floor similar to what's there, and that was nearly $90,000. So the commission discussed it and is suggesting that they go with this rubber sheet floor. It'll have all the lining, just like it does currently, all the foul lines, out of bounds for the 2 courts, volleyball, and so on. I think it's a more durable product. It's not as vulnerable to the moisture that's in there currently that's creating the problem. With the amount of rain we've had and the humidity, the floor is expanding and it's got no room left to go, so it's mounting up. The floor is completely unusable at this point. You couldn't have a basketball game in there if you wanted to. So they're looking for us to approve option 2 this evening so they can get it done and in service for the upcoming basketball season. So Amber had asked me to put it on the agenda. You all have copies of it if anybody has any questions.
Well, I just got one suggestion. Is there any way they could take a section of the floor up and determine how bad the concrete is underneath it before they ripped up the whole thing to get an estimate on what that would be?
I didn't ask that. We opened up a small area of it, and I guess there is wood slat sits underneath that the parquet sits over top of. So until they, if one area is good, doesn't mean the whole
Understood.
thing's going to be
Yeah,
good. But I could
understood.
certainly go down and cut a section out. They recommended that we cut some relief cuts in it, so I went down a few weeks ago.
Right.
And I ran the saw in there, and it dropped down, but then we kept getting
might come
rain
back
and
up.
moisture, and it keeps heaving up. So I can do that, though.
Well, I just wonder, we could open that up and also we have another $60,000 worth of expenses that we weren't planning for here. That's my only concern.
Right.
Let
That,
alone have,
So
when it comes
Amber
to
is
concrete.
planning on taking. There's $25,000 that was
For fields, we
for,
had.
in the
yeah.
budget for fields and grounds, basically, and then there is $60,000 currently in the TL fund, which is what that's
What they
intended
have
for.
here.
So they definitely have the money to do it.
Mhm.
But if you'd like, I'd certainly
Well,
go
I'm
down and
just
cut a
making,
section.
I don't know, I don't want, how anyone else feels, I don't want to hold off this process either, but I just don't want to get into something that's going to,
Well,
we got
regardless,
way
the
past our
floor,
budget.
the
That's my
floor's
only
not
concern.
usable currently,
I-
so
I
maybe they
understand.
can't have a basketball game, because
I know.
it's, in the middle of the floor, it's like, there's probably a 6-inch lump currently.
That's a problem.
That's a bad thing.
Back in my day.
Yeah, he played on the rocks.
LeBron James can play out of it, I'm sure, no problem.
Improves your dribbling skills.
Yeah.
He doesn't need his dribbling skills.
Yeah, it seems that regardless of what we find, we're going to have to move ahead and find the money somehow because we have a rec department without a
Understand, I know you
gymnasium.
need a gym, I
Yeah,
understand.
we got to have it.
Just-
But I agree, it'd be good to get over that sooner than later to find out. But, I'd say just get it up as soon as possible.
I'll cut it tomorrow. I'll go down and cut a section out of it tomorrow.
Yeah, who knows? Let's keep our fingers crossed.
So do you want to vote on it? Pending-
We'll wait till it comes up in the agenda and vote on it. then.
Okay, gotcha. Then there's also there was another discussion concerning the copier, which is also on the agenda for tonight, to replace their copier. It's actually a savings of $9,300 over the 48-month lease to replace this copier, but we can also discuss that when it comes up on the agenda. The Friends of Philipstown Recreation will be holding their annual Castle to River Run this year on November 17th. There's already several hundred runners signed up. It's much larger this year. It's a 50K, 25K, 5K, and a kids 1 mile. If you're interested, go to the website, the Rec Department website for details. And sign up, and there's also a big need for volunteers, so anybody who's got some time that day. It's going to be on November 17th. They're looking to do shifts, like a morning shift and an afternoon shift, so you're not there, because the 50K is going to take quite a bit of time for some of them to finish. So
If I did it, it'd take about a week.
I would just drive my car.
What do you run out?
So that's all I have from the Rec Department.
All right,
The
thank you.
Next meeting is scheduled for November 27th.
Philipstown Communities That Care.
The Philipstown Communities That Care Coalition is now meeting every other month. We just seem to get more done that way. The bigger group meets every other month, and then the core group, talks almost daily. Our next meeting is November 28th at the North Highlands Fire Department. I did get an update from Danielle Pack-McCarthy, our coordinator, and she just, she called a couple of weeks ago just to say thanks for creating the position. It is working. Within the past couple of weeks, past 2 weeks, she's been working with 3 different families, which, I'm really happy that people are using this. She's also been working really hard in the community at establishing relationships. She met with the nurse manager at Hudson Valley Hospital Center, New York Presbyterian, to talk about how to, talk to or give resources to folks that come in and have OD'd and have been at the emergency room and just get released with no resources. So she's trying to establish, it's hard. There is some resistance at the emergency room because it's an emergency room. They're not really wanting to take on this task of, now addressing the needs of this epidemic, but it's a great place to start because that's where it hits first. They see it first. So she's, starting that relationship. And we also have scheduled a meeting with New York Presbyterian, their government relations person. They just opened their offices here at the Butterfield property. It's a great thing, but there are no behavioral health resources there. So, I'm hoping that we can start some kind of mental health, behavioral health resources there. It should be like getting a flu shot. We should have those resources in our town, and they have the space for it. It's New York Presbyterian. What a great thing. So right here in our town. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping we can start that. And again, the next meeting for the coalition, I encourage everybody to come. It's a great group. There's a lot to do. November 28th. And also, November 14th at 7 p.m. at Haldane. We are doing another Family University day. It's a great thing where we had guest speakers come in, experts come in. We also had a makeshift bedroom where you can go in and you kind of learn about where your kids are hiding the stuff, and the New York Council on Alcohol and Drug Dependency comes in, and so I would encourage people to go to that too. You can learn a lot. Thanks. November 14th.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Planning Board.
Okay, I attended the planning board meeting October 18th. We had a pretty full agenda. On old business, we had Barbara Pack Eller, Lake Celeste Drive, in Old Albany Post Road. Applicants propose a new single-family home with a driveway and a detached garage. She's seeking approval for site access and site approval. Last month, I reported on the public hearing which they held. It was like 13 or 14 people who did speak at that public hearing. There was really nothing positive that came out of the public hearing. A lot of people are kind of against this project. But anyway, the board last month directed Ron Gaynor to prepare the seeker and resolution and vote on next month's November meeting, which is November 15th. Next on the agenda was James Copeland, 3052 Route 9. I've been reporting on this the last several months as well. The applicant is seeking to change the use from retail to office space. This was a previous antique center up there on Route 9. The board unanimously approved the application. Next on the agenda was Taylor Frats, 220 South Road, Highland South Road, Garrison. The applicant is seeking approval of a new single-family residence on approximately 4,000 square feet with a detached garage for approximately 900 square feet. The property is on 17 acres and is located in RR zoning district right across the street from Garrison Fish and Fur Game Club. The board voted to classify it as a minor project. The board also voted to make themselves the lead agency under seeker and declared it an unlisted action. Last month is referred to the Conservation Board as well and the local fire department for review. The board has scheduled a public hearing for next November meeting, which is again November 15th. SEJ Realty, Route 9, 1510 Route 9 in Garrison, right before 403. The applicant is seeking an amended site plan approval for changes to certain areas of the approved site plan back in March of 2018. The changes are concern of two areas where additional outdoor storage has been already approved. The first change is they want to extend the area from 800 square feet to 1,034, which is an increase of 212 square feet. This will also extend that they have a fence down there to hide everything behind it, so that was also, they'll have to extend the fence so people can't see what's behind the wall there. The second area is a new area, which is looking to cover 600 square feet as well for outdoor storage. This person down there, this company down there is like a metal fabrication, and do a lot of welding and so forth like that. So basically all the stuff outside is just metal storage and so forth like that. This is also referred to the county, Putnam County. It was also referred to the Conservation Board last month. The board is scheduling a site visit November 4th, 9:30, which is this Sunday. New business, Christine Conley, Route 403, Garrison. Applicant is seeking a new site approval for a single-family residence for approximately 1.5 acre parcel with a private well and septic. The property is located in RR zoning district. The board classified this as a minor project, declared themselves the lead agency, and the board referred to the county planning as well as the Conservation Board. A site visit is also scheduled for November 4th after they finish this visit for SEJ Realty. A public hearing is also scheduled for the next November meeting, was again November 15th. Last on the agenda is Lorry Residence, 80 Erie Road, Route 9, 80 Erie Road, Garrison. It's right off of Route 9, almost right across from Papa John's up there. The applicant is seeking to demolish an existing 5,300 square foot home and rebuild a single-family residence on 5,216 square feet. It'll be a single-family home resident on the same location with a new garage. The board declared it a minor project and unlisted action, and they were referred to the county planning and the Conservation Board, and a public hearing was scheduled for next month as well. Again, next meeting was on November 15th, 7:30 VFW building. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Zoning Board.
I attended the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on October 15th. There was a public hearing scheduled for Dana and Kevin Raymond, 28 and 30 Hudson River Lane, Garrison. By request of the applicant, the hearing was canceled and the application was withdrawn. New business, Betsy A. Haddad at 19 Lake Celeste Drive in Garrison. Applicant is seeking a front yard, rear yard, and impervious coverage variance for a proposed 80 square foot addition and a deck. The application was found complete and scheduled for a public hearing on November 5th at 7:30. That is a date change because the normal day is Veterans Day, so they're moving it to November 5th, so be aware of that. That's it.
Thanks, John. Highway.
Highway Philipstown Town Board, Carl Frazenda, work performed by the Philipstown Highway Department for the month of October. The highway crews are trying to take advantage of the last days of warmer temperatures to finish up on driveway aprons and blacktopping. We are aware this takes time away from other maintenance issues such as pothole repairs and draining issues. We will address them as soon as possible. Weather permitting, we ask for your patience. A paver was rented for 1 week for repair work on East Mountain Road south and north by the reservoir. Clearing pipes and waterway work continue most of the month. Digging work continued on Lower Station Road, and the mystery water leak source was finally located on a service line to a private residence. 2 new additions were made to the highway fleet this month, a new Dodge Ram pickup truck with plow, which was budgeted for the 2018 budget, and a new Kubota mini excavator, which was bought through CHIPS, a New York State reimbursement. Once again, tires are being dumped into our local waterway. This time they were found in a stream by Old Manitou Road in Garrison. Dumping is against the law and punishable with heavy fines. We are asking residents to please call the highway department if they see anyone dumping along the side of the road, waterways, and provide any details you can. We are currently working along with the Putnam County Sheriff's Department and the Wetlands Inspector in trying to stop this illegal and unnecessary act. We are called to pick up the tires and haul it away, which takes time and money from the highway department. A large tree was removed by Central Hudson on Foundry Pond Road. Work was complete after a short road closure. Material bids were opened on October 31st and will be awarded as soon as examined. The Highway Department received 40 phone calls or faxes regarding the roads, and $13,000 was spent on vehicle maintenance and repairs in October. Carl Frazenda.
Add to that, can
Sure.
With your permission,
Thanks,
I just wanted to add to Carl's good work. Back in August, my work on the Putnam Traffic Safety Board, I initiated a conversation with the new New York State DOT representative, Lisa Mondello, the professional engineer who now sits on the Traffic Safety Board. And from there, we met with New York State DOT reps Mike Sassy and Glenn Bush and Mark Rosen from the county, along with Dave Keith, out on Fishkill Road and Route 9 to address the dip in the road. Carl and I, folks from the New York State DOT and the county were there, and from there, Fred Pino was on vacation. They kind of negotiated, the state and the county negotiated what the work was to be done and decided that the county would pave that part of Fishkill Road. In good faith, they had this conversation and negotiated that, at that time, that's what was going to be done, and then further work would step up to the DOT. So I just wanted to clarify that, the state did not renege on their responsibility. We did meet in good faith to discuss what would be done on that road, and from there came the repair.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for getting that done.
Sure.
Building and land. For building and land, Councilman Van Tassel and I have been meeting with representatives of Highland Architecture to forward the project on this building. We're so close. Every time we feel like we're there, ready to release the bids, it's just another thing. There's a lot of bureaucracy involved in public works, and especially when you get in excess of $500,000, which this building most certainly will take.
An ancient building.
Yeah, an older building, definitely. It was decided, we had a whole laundry list yesterday. We had a lengthy meeting yesterday. It's a good time, good way to finish the day. Strong finish. But we had a 14-item agenda that we addressed everything. The first thing we're going to have to do on this building is a hazardous materials survey, which you have to do in any public building where you're going to undertake a renovation that impacts more than 50% of the building, which this one definitely will. But we're hoping to release the bid in the next 6 weeks. As we address this, the first thing we're going to do is get in touch with an environmental testing company, have them come in, assess what's here, and then
That'll really tell how soon the process will start.
yeah, exactly, because we can't do anything until we
Remediate.
know what we're dealing with, and then we have to remediate. But we're also going to work with the vets to see what we can do with the American Legion to get some space over there. We're obviously going to be in some modular space for a period of time. Justin had a pretty ambitious schedule.
Yeah, he called and apologized for that this morning. Yeah, he said, I wasn't thinking very.
Okay. But we were
I said,
like,
"It's
wow.
okay, Joe."
How long was he giving it?
We'll probably be out of this building for a year, is what we're figuring, with the amount of work that's going to happen.
I would hope quicker than that, but I don't think it'll be as aggressive as Justin.
I would plan on a year. By the time we get everything out,
Yeah, it's a lot to remove.
everything back in, and there's a lot of work going to happen here. And this building is just in desperate need of renovation. If we don't do something, we're not going to have a building. So this is it. We have to do it. And we've been saving for a while, and we think we can do it with very, very little impact to the tax base. So, but again, whether we stay here or we go somewhere else, and it's going to, something's going to cost money. And I think it is worth reviving this building. It's a historic structure, and I think that it's worth doing. So, at any rate, we'll keep you posted on that.
Nice.
Putnam County Legislator.
Hello there. Just to clarify, Nancy, Fred Penna was on vacation, and it's up to Fred Penna and the legislature to allocate the funds to fix that project, and that's what we did.
Thank you.
You're
I'm
welcome.
glad I initiated it.
Yeah, in your dreams. I want to just talk about what happened in Nelsonville. I did a press release on October 30th. Community member's home, which is under construction, was reportedly vandalized with graffiti, which included a swastika and an anti-Semitic slur. I've spoken to the sheriff, and he is investigating this, and we all, of course, you know, this is horrible for our community. This is not what we're about. It's a cowardly act, and it's not a part of the fabric of the people that live in this community. So hopefully this will come to some, you know, solution to find out who did this.
What location was that again?
It's in Nelsonville, yeah. So we can't ignore something like this, especially given the light what happened so recently with all those lives lost. It's a terrible thing. Tuesday, I don't have a lot to report. The legislature was very busy in doing their budget this month, and it's finally finalized. $159,766,946. It's a lot of money. We balanced the budget even with the mandates that really cover like $109 million of that budget, which is huge. Again, we never seem to get mandate release. We just get more mandates. The tax bill for the Putnam County homeowner is 9.1%. Your school's portion is 71.19%. Your town's portion is 18.5%, village 0.54%, and our fire district's 0.67%. So it's quite a lot to go through. You know, I know you struggle with your budget as well. It takes a whole month. We go through every department. We go through every personnel, seeing where we can cut. I mean, we ended up only changing it by about $16,000 out of all these millions. It was most departments came in pretty flat from last year. So it was done well. The county executive brought it through, so we're in good shape. We're in good standing for next year. I also attended the emergency services meeting last week to discuss the new trunk system that's coming. Should be operable in another year. So there's been a lot of discussion. I mean, this is almost $8 million when it's finished. A lot of it was grant money that the county, you know, Tom Lannon is very good at finding money in the state. He's going up there next week to try to get more. It's $7 million just for the towers and the equipment that goes in the towers, and we have that covered right now. What I'm pushing for is to provide radios for the fire departments and the ambulances. I feel that it's a huge expense, and you know, we have a lot of fire departments in our county, and some have more money than others. But I still think if the county's going to change the system, we should pay for the radios, at least most of it. Yeah. So what we'll be doing is we'll put all the first response vehicles, portables for the chief vehicles, and in case of EMS, captain's vehicles. And first respond vehicles would be engine, pumpers, rescue apparatus, tankers, ambulance, chief vehicles. The one thing we are asking the fire departments to do, join together and write a grant together to try to defray some of this costs. We think we have it covered. We might have to go, you know, out for some money. But we really need the fire departments to work together to write a grant together. That's the only way they're going to get funding. They can't do it individually. They have to do it together. So,
does the county have a grant writer that we could use and possibly?
Unfortunately, the county cannot have anything to do with what you're writing. That's stipulated by Albany. But that's not going to stop Tom from trying to get more funds. So, I mean, we'll direct you. We can't write it, but we'll certainly help.
I've heard some crazy numbers on costs for, I mean, like the portables that they currently have and the radios that they currently have. The big investment for the departments is the portables, and a
Yeah.
lot of them have, and to replace them is
Yeah.
a fortune.
We
per-
just bought them
per
2
radio.
years ago.
A lot of them.
We're constantly buying them.
Yeah.
And we did put, for some departments, we're considering allocating, well, they have in their budgets,
at the end on schools.
put some money, requested some money for radios. And my question was, I did read that the county was covering the radios. Why are we putting money in the department's budgets for those radios?
Because at first, the county wasn't going to cover these.
And they're doing the mobile radios only, which is what I understood for the vehicles, but this
Yeah.
is the portables is what.
The portables, yeah,
Yeah.
we can't do everything.
Right.
What we're doing is going to be about $1.3 million.
Yeah.
So that at least get everybody going.
Right.
You know, so we can get onto the system. You know, this is a great system. We'll be able to include school districts, highway departments.
But I don't think we should be budgeting for radios until we find out what we're gonna get. I mean, that's, you know.
Well, you have to be prepared for it. I mean, this is something, you know how budgets work. You put money aside. You don't come up with it that year.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
the-
I
gonna
mean, we've been talking about this for 3 years.
Yeah. It's been
So-
talked about for 20 years,
Yeah.
actually.
It's a good
Communication
system.
issue has been a-
And once the 11 towers get up and working,
Right.
it's going to really save lives, I
Right.
think. So.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Barb.
Thank you.
Cemetery Committee.
Okay, the Cemetery Committee met on October 9th. Basically, we completed the fall renovations, which were quite extensive in the Cedar Street Cemetery. If you take a look at it, you'll see some remarkable work done by the stonemasons. Things where they started out and told me, well, we're not positive we can really lift these. It's a very difficult thing when you're really trying to work in between a lot of the gravestones. There's not much room, and to try to get tripods and other equipment in there to really lift these massive stones is really difficult. So my hat is off to them for doing what they did. So they've done quite a bit there. 2 trees I'm going to have to take out at Cedar Street. It seems like trees are constantly coming out of there, but one, they are either dead or dying, and they will clearly threaten the cemetery. We've done quite a bit of renovations. The other side piece, too, is when they're up towards the front, which these 2 are, I have to take into account the students that stand there as well. So I am concerned about student safety as well for that. We have started to also, besides mapping, which I've explained in the past, where we go around and try to research the different graves, we started grave cleaning to try and be able to determine what the different sayings and so forth on them are, because that'll help us be able to further research and find out about the families and so forth. This is a real mystery. Every time you turn around and investigate something, something else changes. And we have a great person on our committee, is very good with research, and so we're always constantly coming up with a new change all the time. At our last meeting, we also discussed the use of ground radar. This is where we have a large section in the Mountain Avenue Cemetery with an open section, and we believe that there were graves buried there, but we don't have actual proof. So we are at some point going to try to take a look at bringing in someone who's actually and do the limited, quick scopes of seeing, in fact, if we can determine whether or not those were, there are people buried there. So then eventually we'd like to kind of put up a plaque or something to acknowledge that. And we'll actually try to eventually over time come up with other ideas, but it's not very cheap, so it has to be done quick, and we have to know what we're doing. So we're looking into that. I did bring up to the matter only because I wanted to make sure that about the committee, the General Morris crypt in the Mountain Avenue Cemetery, whether or not we wanted to even look into the matter of possibly digging up the stairways that actually lead to the crypts themselves. Over time, in that particular area, if you've ever been over there, it actually collapsed in that whole section. The committee was not really in favor of doing that. They were more afraid of actually creating some damage potentially to the crypts. So that the discussion ended on that one. But again, this is what we're really trying to look at. We are still looking at replica wrought iron for the top, but that will only really come from outside private funding. We really don't have the money to really use the town for that particular item. And we are clearly still looking for other members. it's really fascinating work. When you come to our meetings, it's a lot of research, a lot of details. So if you like a mystery, it's there, okay? And our next meeting is November the 13th.
All right, thank you, Mike. There was a portion of the Morris crypt that was restored, though, right?
That's true. Under Betty Butney, the front section was done, the gate itself and so forth, but they really didn't, obviously for money reasons, they did not take on the top replacement of the wrought iron. We found, actually, the school kids found a lot of the stuff buried in the front part of it when they were going around trying to research, but we can't use that, of course, and it's expensive, but obviously, it originally had a stairway that went down, and actually we have mappings that show which each person was buried into the crypt itself, but it's, so there was a lot more there, but we don't really apparently want to take that on. I don't blame them. It's a big
I
job.
can get you some info on the radar. We actually did it up by the annex at the school
Oh,
when
okay.
there was controversy about parking up there.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes, right.
And,
Yeah, that's right. Yes, yeah.
Mike Prentis came in actually and just had the brand new equipment, tested it out, and I have the report for that.
Oh, okay,
So I could
good.
show it to you.
Great,
We
yeah.
didn't find much in that, but I did send it to the school and.
Yeah. There was obviously nothing on the
Right.
surface, because I
Right.
went over,
I think-
fine-tooth combed that whole area and found nothing in that section where they believed it
Interesting.
was,
I'm
but-
sure, we could
I can
get
a price-
someone
I
with
can
the ground penetrating radar to come in and take
Yeah,
a
I
look
can get
at
a
it.
quote for that if
We
you
put
want
some
more.
money in the budget for that. It's
Yeah.
a good time. Thanks, Mike.
Thank
Before we start the agenda, it was just, last week was a horrific week in this country, and I would like to observe a moment of silence just in recognition of all the lives that were lost. It's just awful to think that people in a house of worship just can't be left to that. And you really have to wonder what's going on at times like that. There's no explaining it, but the rhetoric really does have to be toned down in this country, and it's nothing is worth that. It's just, I really don't know how to put it into words, obviously, but I would like to observe a moment of silence. Our thoughts and prayers go out to those in Pittsburgh and other places in the country that have lost loved ones. It's an awful time.
Just to think that somebody who would survive the Holocaust ended up dying that way so many years later. It's just,
It's senseless. There is
yeah.
no explaining. That's why they call it senseless violence.
Yeah.
The hate that's out there. And again, visiting this town, that's, my wife is Jewish, my son is Jewish, so it's it's a topic of conversation in our house, no doubt. So with that,
The first item on the,
Sorry, Tina. Get my mess out of your way.
thank you so much. The first item on the agenda, Christopher Prentis, a representative of the Lower Hudson Forestry Services, to address the town board regarding a timber harvesting plan and scheduled road usage over Philipstown Roads.
Good evening.
Christopher?
how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good.
So I'm here tonight really just to kind of give a general overview of what we're planning on the Ellis parcel. We're not actually doing any harvesting, any work, any skidding, any cutting, nothing in the town of Philipstown. It's all being done in the town of Fishkill. And I am actually in front of the Town of Fishkill Planning Board obtaining a timber harvesting permit. The Town of Fishkill had contacted you, and you guys wanted me to come out and, I guess, give an explanation of what we're doing in Fishkill. And the other item is that we're going to be coming out through the Philipstown, about a third of a mile of Philipstown Roads before we hit State Route 9. So we're looking at harvesting timber on about 40 acres. The property's enrolled in the DEC's 480A Forest Tax Law Program. It's been sustainably managed property for approximately 20 years. We're looking at cutting a total of 502 trees, so about 12 and a half trees an acre. And we're looking at removing about 104,000 board feet, which would equate to about 21 truckloads moving across the town's roads. The harvest would likely take about 2 months, weather permitting, and the DEC is restricting our time of harvest November 1st to March 31st, and that's just purely because of rare, threatened, and endangered species, Indiana bat, or northern long-eared bat, and timber rattlesnake. So, like I say, other than truck driving on your roads, there's no harvesting or skidding or landing work or anything like that in the town of Philipstown.
I have a question. Stumps are staying?
Yes.
Brush is getting chipped or?
Nope. Tops and limbs are getting lopped down to 3 feet or lower, and it basically helps the decomposition, nutrient recycling.
It's not going to
Yep.
be good. Thank you.
But the stumps aren't going to be high, right? You're going to cut those as low as you can?
Correct.
So what are your qualifications, just out of curiosity?
I'm a SAF certified forester, DEC consultant forester. I'm also a New York City watershed agricultural forester. I have a Bachelor of Science in Forest Management. Been doing this for 20 years, so I think I'm well qualified.
Right. How many trips, you're saying about 24 trips, you're saying? 24
Well,
logging truckloads in that neighborhood?
correct.
So we're looking at, our concern is obviously the use of our road and the disturbance in that neighborhood. So where's the staging area going to be? Because obviously you can't, I'm just wondering how you're going to access that or how you're going to load the trucks, things like that.
The staging area is in the middle of the Ellis property. So if you take Mr. Ellis's house out of the equation, the nearest neighbor to the staging area is over 1,000 feet away.
Okay.
The nearest neighbor to actually where the harvest is going to be is 700 feet away. So it's a long ways. And in terms of noise, there's a large quarry that all day long you can hear them working. So, and it's right there. So I don't really foresee that noise would be much of an issue.
Right, what are your hours of operation going to be?
That's just dependent on whatever the town of Fishkill's hours of operation.
But generally speaking, what would you figure?
Typically 8 in the morning till 3:30, 4 at night. So that's typically how it's done.
So you're saying you would stage on the Ellis property, you're driving in their driveway, and
Correct.
you're going to have obviously a fairly big area if you're going to be turning around logging trucks and,
Yeah, they have a large, it's an old agricultural field. The driveway in is a gravel, almost a quarter-mile long gravel road that goes back into the old farmstead.
and so you're going to come out onto Reservoir Road, go out
Albany Post.
the old Albany Post Road and hit 9.
Correct.
9, then you're going to be going north, right?
Right, that's what it
Correct.
says.
Gonna cross
Going to
it to
84,
go
it
north.
says here.
Yeah,
So you're looking at, you said 21 truckloads for 2 months?
about 24,
24.
spaced out over 2 months. So you're looking at, usually a person that's doing hand cutting is 3 to 4 a week. There'll be some weeks where it's 2, there'll be some weeks where it's 5, but 3 to 4 a week is usually a pretty good average.
And the company you're working with that'll be actually doing the harvesting is your company or?
No, it would be a purchaser. So the timber is actually currently out for bid right now. So the purchaser who would buy it is the one who would cut it.
When's the last time that was, since it's been in the program for this long, when's the last time that it was harvested in there?
The best we can figure was 20, 25 years ago. It was before they enrolled in the program. So it hasn't been harvested under the 488 program yet.
And just an estimate of your crew size, 5 guys, 10 guys, 20 guys?
Normally it's 2 to 3.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Does
What-
go ahead.
The one thing we're probably going to look at is a bond for our road.
Yeah, and that's, I don't have any issue with that. That's typical in pretty much every single town I work
Right.
in, so.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing is that an unreasonable bond is really what I'm trying to avoid.
No, I mean, we want to make it realistic,
Right.
cover if there is damage. I mean, you seem like a reasonable person. You have you have the credentials to go with it, so we're not looking to crush somebody's business. I mean, it's a DEC program. Forest is, the forest, I have a degree in forestry, so
Oh, okay.
I understand some of it. But, forest properties do need to be managed. Otherwise, they can get unwieldy and get, unwanted species and all that. I understand that. If it's done by a certified professional, it can be done well.
Right.
There is no logging light, people see it and they're horrified, but it's, there are ways to do it and there are ways to mitigate the negative impacts of it. So that's what we're going to rely on you for.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's in Fishkill, in reality, there are no boundaries in the forest, so
That's true.
it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But we will definitely be monitoring what goes on our road and the impact to our areas.
Right.
Max, do you have something you want to add to any of this? You must have met Max by now, or have you not?
We spoke.
Okay.
And wait, before you say anything, I have to ask you, are you the one that was taking the pictures that's in the Rockefeller State Park?
No.
Oh, there's a Max Garfinkel, right?
Yeah.
That's you? Oh, okay. I was like, that's definitely the same guy, so fair enough. I was there last week for a class, and I was like, I wonder if it's the same person, so,
Yeah, that was my boss's doing.
okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
But Max is our natural resources review officer.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have a conservation board here. I mean, we take this sort of thing really seriously in Philipstown. That's why we have a board and not just an advisory committee. They are a board with authority. And so Max heads that board up for us, really consults.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things we were thinking about is there's no stormwater problems that would come from this that could affect the other properties that border Philipstown in your section, correct?
Correct.
Or Clove Creek.
Correct.
That's one of our
Yeah.
big concerns. Clove
Right.
Creek is a certified trout stream. We do know that.
So the only other question I had, because I don't have the experience with this, but is the size vehicles, we already know that because those are extremely small roads, and if there's any culverts, that we have some level of assurance that we're not going to crush culverts and so forth with the size vehicles you're using.
Yeah, I mean, typically a log truck weight is almost the same as a fully loaded fuel oil truck. It's almost the same as a fully loaded concrete truck. So if you're going to build a house, an addition, a pool, that concrete truck's going to go over those same roads just as many times. So it's no big difference, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I just had 2 quick questions.
Sure.
Max,
Yeah.
we want to show you off, so can
Yeah,
you go
we
to the
gotta go to the
podium? We're kind of proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are.
See,
your
someone likes it
knowledge.
besides me.
Yeah, I guess I had 2 quick questions just after reviewing the application, and I think I just want to reiterate that we, obviously we are mostly concerned with the road trafficking. But in reviewing the 480A application, it states that you are going to be, you've basically dedicated 64 acres for harvesting. You're cutting in 40. So I'm curious how you're still eligible for the full reimbursement through that program without making that change in their eyes as well.
It just comes down to some areas didn't have the size timber that we were looking for. Some areas were just a little too rocky. So there was buffers that we put on the stream that runs down through the middle. So that's the reason why it didn't quite meet 64 acres. So,
Okay.
yep.
And then the other concern that I had was just reviewing the EAF bald eagle wintering habitat came up, and I was curious why that wasn't addressed in the letter back from the DEC.
You'd have to talk to the DEC. The DEC did the review for the SECRA and for the timber harvest, and their concerns were bats and rattlesnakes.
Okay.
So.
So I guess so Fishkill is now the lead, or they're applying for lead agency for your seeker application for the harvest as part of the permit. So I don't know if that would be something that maybe we could send a memo in regards to see, because that will also, depending on the distance from the wintering habitat, that will also preclude any forestry work. Again, within a quarter mile of that habitat, there's a time restriction in the wintertime as well. So I think that'll be important too. And basically that timing restriction is from December 1st to March 31st. So I'm curious, because it does come up on your EAF, if they could also address that as well.
Yeah, like I say, I can ask the wildlife biologist. She wrote the letter, so maybe, like I say, maybe it wasn't a concern of hers, or maybe it didn't fall within that area. I don't know, but you know, like I say, it's the application and the notification was given to the DEC, and that's what their review was.
Okay.
Yep. And I guess also to note, the town of Fishkill has a public hearing on this matter next Wednesday, the 7th. So everybody who's in a butter received a letter, so they're all invited to the public hearing, and if they have any issues, they can express them there as well.
All right. Anything else from the board? Max, you? So we'll follow through. We have a great relationship with Fishkill. I know the supervisor personally, work with him quite often. You know, they're a good bunch up there. I'm sure I'm sure it's being thoroughly vetted. And again, you seem like a responsible person to me, so we'll hope for the best. Obviously, we're going to articulate our concerns to the Fishkill Planning Board, and you know, we wish you the best of luck with it, and hopefully it works out well, and everybody's
So if we
pleased
decide to
with the
do a
outcome.
road bond here, what's the process for him to go through
Well,
that?
in consultation with the highway superintendent and the Conservation Board and the Natural Resources Review Officer, we'll come up with a number that we think is, you know, fair. That will cover us in case anything happens. And again, we're looking for a certain level of sensitivity in the whole project. So.
Right. And I would also offer that, you know, whoever the purchaser is had to name the town of Fishkill as part of their insurance. If the town of Philipstown feels comfortable, it wouldn't be much of an issue to
Right.
name them as additionally insured in liability. So
That would be helpful, very helpful. So thank you. Well, thank you for coming in. It's
okay.
doing your due diligence. It's usually something we find out about after the
Yeah,
fact.
yeah, appreciate
So
it.
we do have your esteem has risen in our view, so.
Fair enough. Well, thank you.
Thank you
Have
very
a good
much.
evening.
Thanks, Max.
Thank you, Max.
Okay, the next is a resolution accepting the resignation of Eric Lind from the Conservation Board effective October 22nd, 2018. He wrote a letter to Supervisor Shea. Dear Richard, as you know, I am resigning as a member of the Conservation Board for Philipstown, and the recent October meeting will be my last. The reason behind my resignation is that I have been offered a new job position and will be relocating to the capital region. It has been my pleasure to serve the town board in this capacity for nearly 20 years. My experience on the Conservation Board and its previous iterations has been extraordinary for two major reasons. First is the hope that I have played a role in conserving Philipstown diverse wildlife and other natural resource, but more importantly, being part of the Conservation Board and observing the actions of the Town Board, the Planning Board, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and others who are dedicated to local community engagement affirms what is important and honorable in our lives and actions. You have inspired the best in me. With thanks and appreciation.
I'll tell you, there are a lot of environmentally minded people in this community, obviously, but as far as the movers and the shakers go, Eric Lind is number one in my eyes. And there's no one more dedicated to the cause of environmental protection and no one more sensible about it in his approach.
Right, yes.
He's not a hardliner, but someone who is very, very informed, someone I have the highest respect for.
And did it for a long time.
And somebody who's been doing it for a long time and has helped this town immeasurably. I mean, he has just been there for us at every turn. And somebody to advise us during all our environmental reviews of every sort. And, you know, I know he knew Jim Rod, so he was well advised. And Constitution Marsh is far better off for having him been a steward of that property for all these years. Audubon is lucky to have him. You're just not going to find better. He's salt to the earth, and you're not going to find a more humble person who, humility is one of his great characteristics, but with the wealth of knowledge he has, he's got a lot to crow about. So
Yeah, he played clearly a big role. When I first went on the Conservation Board in 2009, he was the chair, and I was to learn from him, and he was very impressive, very helpful. I saw how he dealt with people. He really, truly wanted to help people achieve their goals. You just really can't do better than that. He had the knowledge. He didn't push it on people. He realized that people needed help in certain areas, and he gave it, and including myself. And he'll be sorely missed. Rich is right. He's one of a kind. I will definitely miss him.
Tried to manage the parking problem.
Yes, yeah. Now that right there, he should have got a medal for.
Stuck in the middle of
Parking.
something he really didn't have to do.
yeah, you talk about somebody who was worth their weight in gold to an organization like Audubon. Here's somebody who doesn't get paid a lot, doesn't get paid nearly for the hours he would put in down there, the work he's done, and the number of people he's inspired with programming down there. That's just got a logarithmic effect. There are thousands and thousands of people who have been impacted by Eric and his teaching. So it's going to be with great regret that we accept this resignation, but we do wish him the best in his new position. Whoever's getting him is really getting a franchise player there. He's the best. He really is the best. So if I get a motion on accepting the resignation of Eric Lynn from the Conservation Board, no, we're moving on.
Yeah, right. I go for that. No.
Yeah.
No.
Could I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. But thank you very much to Eric Lynn. You are the best.
Yep.
Didn't want to do that.
The next item is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign the intermunicipal agreement between the town and the Village of Cold Spring for building inspecting services.
Yeah, this was a big deal when we did it. It's worked out really well. It worked out for the village, worked out for us. I think having Greg at that critical time really helped the process along. It made a much smoother transition. Working with the village has been rewarding for all of us, and I think that they're getting a great value here, having a full-time building inspector. People can come in, and I think it's working well with Jeff at the village office, having that administrative aspect that Jeff handles, handing it off to Greg for the inspections and all the administration that we do here. But working with the village, it's been a great cooperative effort, and these are the things that New York is looking for you to do that do make sense. It's one of those things. So I'm pretty proud that we got that done. So
This is the second year now, we're going into the
second year, and working really well. So could I get a motion on that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Okay, the next item is a discussion with regard to the proposed AKRF agreement for Philipstown's planning services.
Okay, here we are again. I
I want to be a planner.
yeah, me too. I mean, Bob, do you have anything to add to this?
I did speak to Ron Gaynor today, and he's not the person who initiates the request for AKRF. It comes through Andy Moretti, the chair of the planning board.
Right.
So the requests do come through Andy, and he, when he thinks he needs them, he gets in touch with them. So that's the only thing I can really tell you.
So
but,
this is
yeah.
going to be on an as-needed basis.
Basis,
We're
right.
not committing to any period
No,
of time.
but then, I think the reason they're so big with the project we're doing on Horton Road. It
Right.
was such a big project, and, we just needed their expertise to help us go through the whole entire process. And I think we're not there yet, but I would say within another 6-9 months that hopefully.
6 to 9 months.
Well, I'm just saying,
3-4 years later.
that hopefully be finished. I mean, they haven't been in the planning board now for 2 months. They're still going through their processes and everything like that,
Yeah.
to finalize everything. So
Yeah.
I don't foresee this project getting completed within, 6 months at least. I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a full vetting going on there, obviously. My concern is twofold. one for the expense to the town, but much of this expense is,
To the landowner,
the
applicant.
landowner bears the burden of that.
Right.
And, we do like to be fair about that, because when you put money in escrow, it seems to go,
Yeah.
no matter what you put in. And, so if you're working at $5,000 a clip, which a lot of these applicants are,
Goes quick, too.
that can smart. So we want to keep an eye on that. We want to keep an eye on the number of hours that we use consultants. But at the same time, we do want to have a full vetting of these projects, these larger projects. Again, for all the environmental impacts and the traffic impacts and everything that goes along with a big project, so.
But before that big project, I don't think, they weren't really that engaged that much beforehand, right?
Right.
They were with conservation when we lost Dave Klotzel from
Well,
wetlands.
for that period of time, yeah.
For that
Right.
period of time, we were in serious trouble.
Yeah,
And they helped tremendously. I don't know, because people don't want to hear, well, what are we going to do before we hire someone else? And everybody's, on the board is just part-time people. And so to pick up that slack, they really helped me out with that. And,
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah.
No doubt it's worth it. Now we have Max, and so
Yeah,
we're in
yeah.
good stead now.
Right.
I know there was some angst during that time, but, so, we'll go ahead and sign the contract with them, I guess, unless the board has anything. But we do want to, again, make sure we're using them judiciously,
Yes, definitely.
Sure, no,
at these rates.
Oh, yeah.
And, in all fairness, again, to the applicants, I know a lot of these things are for-profit ventures, but at the same time, we're not looking to break anybody over these things.
Yeah, before they even put a shovel in the ground.
Yep. So, that's it for that discussion, I guess. Moving right along, Tina.
Resolution.
You want to pass it? Okay. Well, okay, be that,
Authorizing.
yeah, be that way. These glasses, I don't know whose they are. I found them in my desk, but they're like, yeah, but they don't even work for me. I'm going, whose glasses are these? Could I get a motion on the resolution for me, the supervisor, to sign the contract with AKRF Planning?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Welcome back aboard.
Okay, the next item is a resolution approving the Philipstown Volunteer Ambulance Corps' 2017 sponsor approval form for the Length of Service Award Program.
All right, we do this every year. Nancy or John, do you have any commentary on this?
As Chris said when we met during the budget meeting, nobody met the points or to get an overall point for the
But
retirement.
what were the particulars of that? Because there was something that felt a little unfair about
The
that.
problem is it's 10% of the
Number of
call volume.
calls. They have so many more calls than like the
600.
firehouse does.
Yeah.
Right.
They gotta meet, what do you have, close to 300 calls, I think he said?
No, I think it's closer.
600?
600
So you got, so 10% of that is 60.
Right, so
To make 60 calls is difficult.
I don't know who
guess.
would be willing and maybe trying to address that, if a board member wants to get together with them, because it seems like a disincentive if you're not going to get the length of service award.
The other thing is there's a paid staff, so the ambulance goes out with a paid staff.
Yeah, I understand that.
So the volunteers really, unless there's a need for a second ambulance or there's a shift problem, they don't really go as much. And I'm not taking away from, they do a lot, there's no doubt about it, there's
Yeah.
a lot going on, but to meet that call volume, 10% of that volume.
But that's what I'm saying. It seems like it should be maybe a set amount.
Or you mean it's number of calls? no
Number of
matter
calls,
what?
because if any emergency service organization, say some other organization goes out 300 times, you got to get 30 calls. With this one, you have to get 60. What's
I don't think we have any say, I think that comes down from
the state?
Yeah, from the state. as
I
to-
mean, it might be worthwhile drafting a letter to our, state senator and our assembly person to just think about addressing it, because again, in times like this, when we're looking for volunteers, it's a disincentive.
If there's a higher volume.
Yeah, I mean, 60 calls, who's gonna do 60 calls as a
It's been
volunteer?
done.
Yeah, it has
I'm
been
sure
done.
it has been done,
There's been
but you can see that.
It's a lot.
No one's
I
made
mean,
it
they didn't
recently.
make it this year. If somebody gets 50 calls and then you get zip out of it,
Yeah.
does seem a little unfair, so, I don't know.
Look into it.
I'm just throwing it out there. All right, thank you. But, so if I get a motion on a resolution approving the Length of Service Award Program, unfortunately, no one met the call volume, but, motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Again, our sincere thanks to the ambulance corps. These guys, you know, they do a lot. And Chris Tobin does a real lot. I mean, he and his wife basically took over the show there, but
They run a smooth ship.
they do. And even the paid staff, I mean, this is not a high-paying profession for people who are saving lives. Not at all. You're talking about, what's the wage?
16 now?
I'm not 100% sure, but it's not $20.
Around $16 an hour?
Yeah, like $16, $17.
So how do you survive on that? It's just,
You work a bazillion hours, that's how you do it.
yeah, and
3 jobs.
some serious work and a lot of training you have to pay for yourself. So it's,
We're fortunate to have people dedicated like that.
yes, we are very
Yeah.
fortunate.
That can do it too, physically.
All right. Moving right along.
Okay, the next item, a resolution authorizing the town council, Drake Loeb, PLLC, to commence a civil action against property located at 15 Howland Road with regard to illegal fill and/or dumping at that site.
This is in reference to the illegal dumping we've had in town, where we were getting tractor trailer loads of fill brought in that turned out to be garbage, and someone was doing this. We did talk to the property owners. Nobody wanted to give up who it was. So unfortunately, we are headed to court. We want to definitely take this quite seriously, especially with some of the dumping that's been done in the past several months. We're not going to have this in town. If we catch you doing this, you're going to wind up in court with us, and you are going to pay a heavy price for it. So,
a large volume.
And you're going to clean it up.
and you're going to clean it
You're
up,
going to clean it up.
because one of these areas was 5,000 yards.
Yeah.
5,000 cubic yards. And, you know, property owners can say, I didn't know what it was. Well, you didn't know the first couple truckloads, but when you see toilet tanks, pipes, paint cans sticking out of clean fill, that should alert you to something. You should have stopped. And then again, when we catch these people and we ask you for a name, you're complicit if you don't give it to us. So I'm not sorry about doing this, not sorry at all.
What happens when the material is worse? I mean, we're trying to take care of our town for conservation, and at the other end, you could have a serious dump here, and it could destroy streams,
Yes.
properties, well systems. It could really wreak havoc and cause a serious problem for us for a long time.
That's right.
And so I'm
So
in
we'll
favor of doing anything here.
We'll see you in court. Can I get a motion on the resolution authorizing counsel to represent us in this matter?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call vote. Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilman Leonard.
Aye.
Councilwoman Montgomery.
Aye.
Councilman Van Tassel.
Howland.
And I vote aye.
Next item is a resolution authorizing the town's council, Drake Loeb, PLLC, to commence a civil action against property located at 240 Carroll Lane with regard to illegal fill and/or dumping at that site.
Same issue. Same result. We're going to court. We're taking the property owners to court. They're going to give us a name, and we're going to find out who did this, and they are going to get fined, and they are going to clean it up. So could I get a motion on the resolution authorizing counsel in this matter?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Councilman Van Tassel.
Vote aye.
Councilman Leonard.
Aye.
Councilwoman Montgomery.
Aye.
Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Are these both down in Continental Village?
One's
No,
one's
that was
north and
Howland.
one was south.
Howland is the one in Continental Village.
It's right near Ansville Creek.
Some of this we
That's right,
suspect
yeah.
was coming from as far away as the Tappan Zee Bridge. People being paid and paid well
Yeah,
to haul this
sure.
stuff away,
Yep.
and then getting paid and bringing it up here and dumping it for free.
Yeah.
So somebody's gonna pay.
It's a pretty vulnerable site in between.
Yeah.
What lake is that?
Yeah, you're right. Yes, the Ansville
That's
Creek is
a
below
really
it. That was my
vulnerable site to
concern
be
with the
dumping.
Howland one.
Yeah.
Because it's up high and it
And
could
that's
have
the big one, 5,000 yards.
contaminated right down into it.
So it's still there, like the 5,000?
Yeah, nobody's wanted to give up anybody yet, so we'll see what happens when they come into court.
What were we talking about that? Anything new in the Ventura case?
We are still waiting for the appeal to be decided on, whether the judge is going to hear the appeal. It's in federal district court now.
This is over a year.
It's almost 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do
Well, they
about it.
got a bunch of stuff up there the other day. That lot.
Oh,
is,
I know. It's horrifying.
overflowing at this
Yeah.
point.
And talked to Bob Chinquay, our attorney, on this, and he checks the calendar. There's nothing we can do. You can't write to your state senator because they can't, they can't interfere in a judicial matter. They can't. And there's nothing the attorney can do. We're just at the mercy of the court, calling in, finding out, is it on the calendar? And it's not on the calendar yet. It's only on the calendar to see if they'll hear the appeal. We just are looking for a decision to see if they're going to hear the appeal.
This will go on for a couple more years then.
It could. It could. There's no limit on the amount of time that this can go on. It's frustrating. It is so frustrating, but, I don't
It'll
know.
take a real serious issue to change this, probably.
Yeah, well, if that's not a serious issue out
No,
there, I don't
mean-
know what
I mean, in the
is.
sense of contaminating the entire area or something.
Yeah, right. What are we waiting for, right? All right.
Okay, next is the code enforcement monthly report. At 3:30 this afternoon, Linda came running into me and she changed the fees collected for the town. So, the fees collected, $48,388.88.
Wow.
39 total number of permits issued, 1 new 1 or 2 family dwelling, 6 addition, alteration, and repairs to residential buildings, 33 additions, alterations, or repairs to commercial buildings, 29 COs issued, and 1 stop work order issued. And a note from Greg, take time to check your smoke detectors and fire extinguishers. Okay, and the report for the Village of Cold Spring. Fees collected, $5,138.55. There were, the total number of permits issued, 9. 8 additions, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings, 1 addition, alteration, or repairs to commercial building, and 5 COs issued.
Our thanks to Greg and the whole building department. I know they've obviously been busy over there. You have 33 activities at commercial buildings. That's a good sign that people are investing in their businesses.
I do have those 2 I have to add.
Sure.
And that is whether or not you're going to pass a resolution for the gym floor replacement.
Yes, I would be in favor of that. So could I get a motion on the resolution authorizing the expenditure to replace the gym floor at Recreation?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. And as Councilman Flaherty said, we'll find out soon what the floor situation is under the floor, the concrete floor. We're hoping that it's in good shape and we can go over it with minor patching or something like that.
Determine, well, like, what, I know this comes in multiple colors, that they know what they're gonna color.
They did pick something out. I don't get involved with colors.
No, I'm just curious, I mean,
I know they chose something. I'm not 100% sure what the color was.
okay, just curious.
I can find out.
Nah, not a big deal, just wondering.
Okay, and then the second item would be the new lease for the copiers, and over the course of 48 months, the town would save approximately $9,305.
Nice. So we need a copier down there at Rec. We're gonna have one, so if we're gonna save $9,000 with this lease, I'm all in favor of it. Could I get a motion on the resolution authorizing the leasing of a new copier at Philipstown Rec? Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
The building department's looking for a new copier as well, so.
They're always looking for something. We'll see.
Maybe we could
Well, I mean,
Did they present us with a
buy them in
lease?
bulk.
No,
and
they didn't,
get
they
some
just
purchasing
complained about it,
power?
but just haven't really, I guess.
Apparently, they're not looking that hard.
We're not buying one.
They're leasing.
Present us with a lease, so we can,
Well, I guess I could look into that.
Yeah.
today.
um,
I'll stop by there this week and see exactly what they're looking for.
we are gonna meet next Wednesday.
Are we going to adopt the budget next
No.
Wednesday?
No, that's
No,
the
that's
20th.
public hearing is next week.
Yeah,
For the, it has to be no later than the Thursday following the general election.
so we'll meet Wednesday. and
Is Wednesday the public here?
Wednesday will be the public hearing, yeah.
Right.
You're funny. You're really funny, Nancy.
What are we doing Wednesday?
We're gonna do the public hearing.
Okay.
Uh,
Is that gonna be 7?
No opera for me.
That'll be at 7:30.
7:30?
Yeah. I'm also hoping at that point to have the local law for the Magazzino on the agenda. We do have a draft of one. I just want to make sure with council that we can introduce it and get it out next Wednesday.
I haven't.
That's the 7th.
Yeah, no, he was supposed to send it, and I checked. Didn't happen. I mean, we have a draft, but it's not I'm not sure that this is the final draft, so. I sent him an email, I spoke to him yesterday, I imagine we'll get it tomorrow, you'll get a copy, and then we can get it on next week's agenda.
Just introducing it.
Just introduce it,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the next item would be to schedule the adoption of the public, the budget, to adopt it.
Are we doing it on the 20th?
Yeah.
Okay, so November 20th,
That's
we're going to
the-
adopt the budget, Nancy. If you don't, if that's okay with you.
That's a Tuesday before the Thanksgiving, I believe, right?
Yep, strong finish. I like to go in strong.
Don't get opera tickets for that night
Yeah, don't do it.
We can't let it go any longer than that.
No.
We could
So-
do it before, no.
So November 20th is budget adoption.
Cutting it close.
So we like to live here, living on the edge, you know.
That's it.
Budget opera, I wrote.
Budget opera. If you sing a little budget opera, I think that'd be nice. All right, so we'll be here next Wednesday, obviously. I had a couple items. I was back in federal court over the cell tower issue at Vineyard Lane yesterday, another joyous trip to White Plains. Love that. Cannot get enough of that drive or sitting in court. I came right off a job site, though, so I was wearing work clothes. That was kind of amusing.
You look a little rough.
It did look a little bit rough. I think the judge liked it.
Good.
Nice guy. We're getting close there. The one thing that I did ask for, demand, is another balloon test out at the site, because the last balloon test they did, number one, was on Columbus Day, and it was raining and cloudy, so it was useless. They were hemming and hawing about that. I said, fine, if you don't want to do it, let's just go to trial. So suddenly, we're getting the balloon test done again. We're going to get at least 5 days advance notice. We'll distribute that email. Everybody will get a chance to get out there and look at it, including the property owners and the owners of Magazzino. It's a bitter pill because of the fact that you have this new building, this lovely use, and you're going to have, or could have potentially, a 190-foot cell tower just to the north of it. It's not the best thing, but there's a good chance that's going to happen. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They've agreed to move it. The property owner, I have really just lost a lot of respect for him. This is, in my estimation, completely unnecessary for him. A couple $1,000s a month, if that's what you want to sell out the town for, go ahead. The other thing, I just talked about the Magazzino law. That'll be so they can have a gallery space there, so they don't have to have appointments. It's a little ridiculous at this point. It's a known commodity. It's become very popular. It's nothing but positive for the town. It's going to be included in the trolley stop. So we just want people to stop in there. It's good for the town. It's good for local businesses. People come up, spend a day. They're going to eat somewhere here. They're going to buy something in a shop. So
Yeah, I mean, that van goes down to that train station constantly.
yeah. And it's again, I've said it dozens of times, but it's the best possible outcome for that former spot. The aqueduct has been shut down, so Continental Village is now, we're getting our water from Cortland, from the Northern Westchester Joint Waterworks. Trying to negotiate a lower rate. We are paying quite a high rate right now, but for the next 10 weeks, at least we have water. We can't grouse too much because we're going hat in hand. It's the only place we can get water right now. The only issue that has arisen is we don't have as much volume coming in to our tanks, so if it gets really cold, they're going to have to take some pretty drastic measures with lowering and raising the tank in there to break up ice if we get 10-degree weather for any period of time. Hopefully by January 1, our system's back up and running, tied into the aqueduct. But this is going to happen every year for the next 5 years.
I don't understand why they do it over
10
the
weeks.
winter. It just doesn't seem.
It might have something to do with environmental issues. It could have to do with, I don't know. It seems like an awful time to be working in water.
It seems to me like.
Yeah.
And just accessing with snow and.
Yeah, everything. That's what they've planned, though. So at least we have water. Our thanks to the town of Cortland for availing us to that opportunity. So, the other thing we have to think about is a moratorium on Upland Drive. So I'm going to talk to Steve Gavigan, our counsel, tomorrow about that. I really think we should go ahead and draft a moratorium until we get a handle on what's going on in there, because there's a lot of interest all of a sudden in that road. Yeah.
Also, if Cliffside could be included, because, yeah,
Yeah, I'll ask
you know,
him.
both really would need to be studied, I think.
Right, and again, we're looking into the possibility of taking on a road improvement project there and talking with the residents, so.
While you're talking to him about the moratorium, can you mention the vape store moratorium, which I'm sure is due? That was at least 5 months ago that we passed it, and it was a 6-month moratorium. We were waiting, the county was gonna have their legal team, they were working on language for the same, but haven't heard, so I'm not quite sure what you want. If we can, I think you can extend the moratorium a couple of times.
You can.
So let's just do that if you're in favor of it,
Yeah.
and then we'll see what we can come up with. But I don't think we should wait around anymore.
No. All right.
Thanks.
Anything else from the board?
Just to remind people, still at the end of the year, we still have a lot of vouchers that people could get to go to Royal Karting to get rid of the junk or whatever before the year end's over.
I might come in and get
Are
one.
we allowed to use them?
Sure, you're a taxpayer.
Just a quick safety point, over in Continental Village, a number of cars were entered because they weren't locked and things were taken. Please, when you're leaving your cars in your driveway, don't leave them unlocked, all right? They're easy prey to people going in, and the biggest fear, even more than the few items that might be in it, is some person coming out. These are happening at night, it's dark in these areas, and a confrontation could happen. And now it's escalated to something worse. So please, lock your cars as a safety measure. Thank you.
Lock it up.
Lock her up.
I just wanted to tell you about a meeting I attended with a new group called the Philipstown Aging at Home and Staying Independent. This is a movement. It's a group of people that are addressing this. It's been addressed all over the country. Philipstown is a lovely place to live. Having discovered that, many of us are concerned about aging and not being able to maintain our independence in our homes here. It's a nationwide concern. The village concept has been meeting these needs in many communities across the country since it first started in Beacon Hill, Boston, 17 years ago. Community members have organized themselves into membership-driven grassroots nonprofit organizations run by volunteers. Philipstown Group is working to follow these models. If you'd like to know more about it, I'll leave some of these downstairs. You could, email me and I can put you in touch with the people organizing this. It's just starting. They had their first meeting yesterday, and they've got their not-for-profit status that they're aiming for by laws. They're going to have a board of directors, and we're hoping to reach out to all the different senior groups in the community. It's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
Yeah, I've read about that. It's
Yeah.
pretty good, especially when
So
they're
many
in a
people wind up
situation.
out of their house and in places
Yeah,
they don't want to be.
it's like
Yep.
it would be nice to get resources funneled to something like this.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, it would. Really positive. Thank you.
Sure.
John, anything?
Nothing, I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything from the audience? We have Jen coming out.
Through the whole meeting.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh,
I'll
thanks
come
for
back
coming.
again next Wednesday to make my pitch to please include the Desmond Fish Library on your 2019
You know
budget.
we're going to.
We rely on your support. It makes a huge difference in our budget each year, and as you
Yes.
know, we face the same increases in terms of insurance and just general utilities that everybody does, and we really appreciate the town's support for our budget.
Yeah, we're looking
But-
for a slight increase this year, too.
That would be amazing, and we will put it to good use. I would also just say that we've just a quick update on the things that we've been working on. I brought you a copy of our newsletter from the past year, so you can look at some of the programs that we've been offering. The board has really been activated by our long-range plan that was adopted in January, and they're really making a strong effort to partner with local organizations even more. We've been hosting a lot of our local organizations for meeting space, including the comprehensive plan, the climate smart community effort. We had a Putnam County Candidates Forum, which was very civil It was great. It was a really nice place to be on that evening. And somebody said it was kind of boring. I was like, well, what a joy that is. We had a great first responders event. Thank you to all of our first responders for coming out for that. We hope that that'll become an annual thing. For 2019, we're putting together a website of Philipstown Community Resources in partnership with the Butterfield Library, just a centralized and maintained website of links for our social services. It's something that we get reference questions about all the time. People are calling the libraries more and more, so we're trying to give them a central site with links. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're linking to things like the Philipstown Communities That Care site, so we don't have to create all of the links that you guys have gathered, and also the Cold Spring Village and the Chamber of Commerce sites, so we don't have to list every business in town, but we can certainly highlight the people that are doing so. We're also working for 2019 on our own website to make the library accessible 24/7 and to improve our mobile access via phones. And we just got a state grant to do a comprehensive site plan so we can improve the public use of our grounds and also our land use, make sure that that's sustainable and that we're being as green as possible with that, and also looking at a solar project for the library. And just one last plug, that we do have our luncheon with Chris Hughes coming up on Sunday, November 11th. He's written a book called Fair Shot, Rethinking Inequality and How We Earn. And it's all about looking at guaranteed income to empower the middle class. And as part of that, and just sort of in reflection of the topic of his book, we do have tickets on sale on a pay-what-you-can basis so that everyone can be included in that. It is a benefit for the library, but we want to make sure everybody in the community can participate. So,
You want to give the date and time of that again?
sure, it's Sunday, November 11th, and the tickets are available through the library's website at desmondfishlibrary.org.
What time of day will that be?
It's at 12:30 at the Highlands Country Club, so please come out for that. And thank you again, you guys are awesome, and I hope that you'll consider the library. I know you guys are looking for space while you're doing your renovation, and we'd be happy to host. And if there's any other ways that we can support the town, that's what we're here for. So thank you.
Town board meetings around.
Yeah.
Spice it up a little
I
bit.
always said that on the road, take it on the, but Jen, I just want to say thanks. Your changes that you've made to the library, the community outreach is noticeable, and it feels really good, just what you guys are doing in the community. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's been a good year.
Feels good. Yeah, feels good
Thanks.
to be there. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Oh, beautiful. Look at this. It comes with prizes.
Swag, library swag.
All right. Yes, Michelle.
So, Michelle Smith, Hudson Highlands Land Trust. I wanted to mention something very positive that's happening at Breakneck Ridge this week. You may have seen some of the press releases, but basically there is a national organisation called Leave No Trace. You may have heard of them. And basically they call themselves the Centre for Outdoor Ethics. They're a national non-profit based in Colorado that send around travelling teams to what they call national hotspots, which are trails and publicly accessible parks that are completely overrun with people. They're very popular, and they help the local communities figure out plans for how to manage the use issues. And I know, while Breakneck Ridge is obviously not in Philipstown, it's really in Fishkill. It impacts our lives very much in Philipstown in terms of getting from point A to B if we go anywhere north, and in terms of a lot of people really love that mountain and that area, and the traffic on there obviously impacts the Hudson Highlands State Park area in Philipstown. So I think it's great that there is a partnership between Leave No Trace, State Parks was involved in putting this together, New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, a number of other regional parks that are experiencing very high volumes, Minnewaska State Park and some of the New Jersey parks joined us over the past couple of days. they will, and REI is also a very important partner in this process. So there's been a week of events. There's a couple of public events. There's some stuff going on the weekend. So you'll probably see the Leave No Trace Subaru parked at Breakneck Ridge. There is a public event on Sunday from 9 to 2. It's called Trail Love Day, where they try and get as many volunteers as possible to help with things like cleaning up the trash, helping restore the trails, and so that'll be going on. Coming out of this week and all the meetings that Leave No Trace has had with all of the partners involved in trying to find a solution for the high-level use at Breakneck, that they will be issuing a report that will go to all the stakeholders, and some of that I anticipate being made public with suggested solutions. So what's good about this is that this is a group of people who's got experience in solving these problems across the nation and even internationally, and we will get the benefit of their input as to what are some steps that can be taken. Of primary concern to us at the Land Trust, of course, is protection of the natural resources and restoration of the natural resources. So things that are going on, cutting down the use of social trails. There's all these social trails that are getting built, and just making sure that people stay on the designated trails. That will help a lot. And then just dealing with the trash, and then ultimately there will be a solution to the graffiti. The graffiti is hard to solve because it's on DEP property, and DEP has very specific requirements about what materials can be used to get rid of graffiti. So that all of that is getting attention. So I know this is a big issue for the community, and I wanted you to know, and the community to know, that there is a lot of people working on this, is getting a lot of attention. And with that, New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, who I wanted to give a shout out to them. We partnered with them to help with the funding of the Trail Steward program and education about natural resources for their trail stewards. They have released some more statistics about the impact of the Trail Steward program, and it really has, you'll see the down, I'll do it for the camera as well, but the downtrend in the lost hikers, I think, that is one of the most stunning statistics coming out of this. The injuries have sort of stayed about flat over the past 5 years, and the number of people that are sent away from Breakneck, like go to Cold Spring or go to Beacon or go home, is actually in the thousands of the days that the trail stewards are on, which is just weekends and public holidays. So I wanted to give you that.
Great, thank you.
And
Terrific.
Will these Leave No Trace, are they gonna come up with like recommendations or
Thank
anything
you.
like that? Are they gonna?
yes, I'll give you. They will come up with recommendations based on what they see, and I'll give you, one example. Although different things would happen because it's different property owners, but if people are familiar with Blue Hole in Catskills, which is an area that got a lot of attention over the past couple of years. Blue Hole was actually a hotspot last year. It's a DEC property in the Catskills that was completely overrun. It's kind of like Indian Brook times 10. I don't know if they made that report public, but obviously there's been a lot of changes at Blue Hole this year, and they actually started a permitting process. So they've really reduced the impact on the volume of people coming and the management of those people coming to Blue Hole. So I don't know what was in the Leave No Trace report, but it's just an example of, when Leave No Trace comes, there is obviously recommendations, and you see, within a year you've seen some significant changes. That was a DEC property. This is obviously state parks and DEP property. So we'll have to see what the reaction is to the recommendations. But they do release a report with recommendations based on what they know has worked in other areas and the specifics of the particular area that they're visiting. So these are people that travel all around the country. Right. In their Subaru and assess, these situations.
Did someone ask them to come here, or they just
yes,
decide to
state
come?
parks asked them to come. So state parks in Albany asked them to come, and it's actually a very competitive process because there's so many areas that are getting overrun by people. National park, they go to national parks, they go to state parks. and they were, because Breakneck is now, according to some sources, the most popular trail in the US. That it made their application very competitive.
Hopefully as beautiful it is, hopefully the popularity will start, once people have seen it, been there, done that, it'll hopefully.
You'll never run out of people. It's wishful thinking.
300 million people in this country.
Yeah. Well, and also they come from overseas as well, so there's a lot of international visitors that go.
5,000 from last year.
The question I always have is if people love it so much, why do they deface it so
exactly.
much?
Right.
It's just,
Graffiti.
I mean, there's no
Well,
answer to
you know,
this stuff.
some of the things that we've heard is, you know, get a lot of people from the city, and if they, you know, leave their trash or whatever, they just assume that there's somebody following behind them, you know, cleaning up the trash, and
That's a great
that they'll be putting someone out of a job
And
if
then when they paint something as big as a house on a rock that you can see from outer space, they assume somebody's going to come along and appreciate it. It's-
yeah.
Yeah, but someone's watching them do it too. You think someone would say, don't, stop them?
Or hit them with a rock. Or, no. There's this one on there. When I ride my bike across the river, you look across and you can see this red spot on the mountain that must be 20 by 20.
Yeah, you can see it from Storm King.
I mean, how do you get that much paint up there?
Yeah.
That's what I wonder. And somebody had to take hours to do it. If you have that much ambition to do something negative, you are,
1,400 hikers, that's how you get that paint.
yeah.
Is that report, is there a website for Leave No Trace?
There is, and like they won't have done the report for several months yet, because what they do is it's not just the traveling. The traveling team gives all their findings back to headquarters, and they have some scientists and people that have worked on this stuff, and they're the ones that come back with the recommendations. So the traveling team is here now. It'll be a few months before they come up with their report. But there is a website, and there is I just bought one handout with me, but it's just LNT for leavenotrace.org, and then you can find from there. You can link to the hotspots, and then it tells you everything that's going on this week and why they're doing Breakneck. So
How do they turn people away? Like, they convince them you shouldn't be doing this? Or
yeah, I mean, then obviously that has to be voluntary, but a lot of it is what people have been talking about for years. People show up to Breakneck in high heels and tight leather pants, and with no water in the middle of summer, and so once they. There's nothing they can do. If people want to walk by the trail stewards and continue up, there's nothing they can do. There's no law enforcement power, or it's not any a regulated activity. But if they can intervene and persuade people, boy, this is real. If this is your first hike ever, probably not the best thing to do for your first hike ever, and maybe you could do something that's an easier walk, and then there's some things in Cold Spring or Beacon you can do, or maybe maybe a hike today is you're not dressed for it, and you could go have lunch somewhere. But they're very if you ever meet the trail stewards, they're very good with dealing with people and sort of persuading them if something might not be a good idea for them or might not be safe for them. Yeah. All right.
Oh,
Thanks.
thank you. Thanks for the update. Anything else from the audience? Vacancies, Conservation Board 1, those are going to be some big shoes to fill there.
Yeah, for sure.
Approval of vouchers, general.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Highway.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Continental Village Park District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Continental Village Water District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.